The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If on the other hand you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today's Thursday, 30th day of July, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered at about 30 seconds. That will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. That also gives you access to the chat box so that you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. On the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, just point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live. There you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. We also stream live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. The other 22 hours of the day, and all day Saturday and all day Sunday, we're streaming the gospel on CFRN radio to the four corners of the universe, as we have done since April of 2005. Let's open now with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the bountiful blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Guide us in being good steward of these gifts. Let us care for all of your beautiful creation, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. Make us instruments of your peace in order to put an end to the rocket's red glare and bombs bursting in air. Help us to love and care for all of our neighbors, locally and globally, so that we might be truly crowned with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, let me give you the numbers from around the world. Cash markets, the indices. If you're wondering why the sell-off today, well, there's always a reason to hang it on, and they say it was a presidential tweet. So we'll talk about that a little later in the show. I think John's going to try to join us today. Oh, today's Thursday, so it's Dr. Tom Day. He'll be joining us. All right, here we go. Starting in the U.S., the Dow down 324 points. That's 1.25%. NASDAQ down 92. S&P 500 down, no, I'm sorry, NASDAQ down 1. S&P 500 down 26. Russell 2000 down 11. In the commodity basket, crude oil down $1.29, trading $39.98 last. That's a drop of 3%. And I look forward to showing you the alert we had this morning from the pre-market strategy session that caught that entire move in crude. It's a beautiful thing to behold. Gold down $12.40, trading $19.41 last. And in the Asian markets, at the close, the Nikkei posted a loss of 57 points. Shanghai was down 7. Hang Seng down 172. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 141. That's a little over 2%. DAX down 442. That's 3.5%. And the CAC down 105. That's a little over 2%. That's going to make it a red day in Asia, red day in the UK, and it's a big red radio Thursday here in the US of A. Let's go to Michael to get a recap of what happened in the live training room today. When I come back, we'll cover the concierge alerts and the logic alerts as quick as we can. We'll talk to John if he pops in. We'll talk to Dr. Tom at the top of the hour, or 1 p.m. Eastern. And whatever alerts I don't get recapped before Dr. Tom shows up, I will finish the recap once we've finished talking to him. So Michael, I got you locked and loaded. Take it away.
Thanks. Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Thursday, the 30th day of July, 2020. That means tomorrow is the final day of July. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage at cfrn.net, and it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required, right here. Click on that, and it'll be brought to eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, all that we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. You can tell us the biggest trading channel so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button. You'll be sent a confirmation link. Once you get that confirmation link, you have to click on it, okay? Because we don't know you took the trial until you click that link. So we had a pretty good morning this morning. One of our better days of the year. I believe. I know I had one day we were really focused on trading, and I was up $1,700 a contract. But today, I was no more focused than I usually am. But gold was just all over the place, and we were able to jump in gold so many times. I'll go through all that in just a minute, but if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 30th day of July 2020. Made 1 tick in euro, 25 ticks in crude, 96 ticks in gold, and 3 ticks on the ES. Put us at plus 1253 on the morning session. Today it took 19 minutes in one trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we were up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 14 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're at $9,108. That's over 21 trading days, averaging $433 per contract per 2-hour trading day. On the year, $52,673. That's over 139 trading days, averaging $378 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Okay. Yeah. So we had a great morning this morning, and I hope tomorrow morning is just as good. Hang on, I accidentally scrolled up too far. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's get into it. There's a lot to go over this morning, so I'm gonna do it as quickly as I can. Here was our first trade right here on gold. We picked up 10 ticks on that. That was also a YBR trade, red on the cycle. Good separation between the green line. So we picked up 10 ticks on the first trade, 13 ticks on the second trade. Missed that one. 20 ticks on the third trade, put us at plus 43. And then 16 ticks on the fourth trade to put us at plus 59. Then, there were a couple of trades in here that we didn't get into. There's a YBR trade here that would have worked out just fine. A YBR trade right here that would have worked out just fine. But our next trade on gold was over here, and we picked up 10 ticks on that to put us at 89. And then we picked up 7 ticks on this to put us at 96. Okay, and that was the last trade we took, I think. No, oh, look, we did take another trade. So we're good. So we did make over $1,000 a contract in gold alone. But this was a down close below the trend line, is what that was. We missed that one. Looks like we grabbed a little bit on that. And that was it for the morning session. Now, there were other trade setups after the morning session. Right there was one. Right here was one. Right here was one. But gold has been bouncing all over the place today. And we rolled to the Z contract today. Okay. Now, the euro, we had just one trade that we took on the euro. It was right here. We got 1 tick on it. Okay, now the YBR trades on the euro. There was one there. There was one there. One here. One here. And we missed that. There was a long here during the break that we missed. All right, but we only took 1 trade on the euro. Crude oil, we only took a couple of trades on crude. But there were some good YBR trades. I'll go over those in just a minute. Let me get back to where we started here. Now, all this, if you look at it in hindsight, you say, oh, wow, there's a trade there, there was 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 a trade there. But it wasn't, because it was going into the low of the day. Okay. In hindsight, it's easy to pick that stuff out. But you got to know where the low of the day is and the high of the day, and it was going into the low of the day. Now, right here, our first trade on crude, we picked up 13 ticks. And we missed that one and that one, coming off the low. And here we picked up 12 more ticks to put us at plus 25. Missed the follow-up trade. And then we get into the break, and it got kind of choppy during the break. But that's not to say that there was not something to be done. There was a nice YBR trade right here for that leg down. Okay. So crude was, it was pretty active and a pretty good market to trade in today. Now the ES, we had 4 trades on the ES, and 3 of them for 1 tick, and 1 of them was a break even. Now let's get into this. Here we go. Started out right here at 9:33. There was a long right there that I missed. A short right here that I missed. A short right here that I missed. A short here that I got a break even on. Then it started to really move down. Okay, broke through that weekly trading zone, and that is this week's weekly trading zone. There were some decent YBR trades in here, but the regular trade setups that we do in the morning session, there was one right here, I guess, one right there that I missed. And there was so much going on with gold and the other markets that I wasn't too focused on the ES because it kept going in and out of the weekly trading zone. But there was a short right here, a long right there. We picked up 1 tick there, we picked up another tick there, and another tick there. And those were all the trades that we did on the ES today. Okay, now during the break, you can see how choppy it got. And just recently, in the past few minutes, we had some pretty good activity here. We had a long trade there, a long trade there, and that was pretty much it. Okay, now what I would anticipate is it's going to drop back down here. This is last week's zone. It'll probably drop back down there. Okay. I'm just showing you the YBR. Bart, I'm not counting the YBR in my totals. I'm just showing it to you. Okay, I just want to point it out so you can see it. But no, I'm only counting the regular trades. And a lot of times the YBR trades overlap with the regular trades. Okay, so if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 30th day of July, 2020. We made 1 tick in the euro, 25 ticks in crude, 96 ticks on gold, and 3 ticks on the ES. Puts us at $1,253 on the morning session. Today it took 19 minutes and 1 trade to get to $100 a contract, and we took a total of 14 trades. So on the month now, we're at $9,108. That's over 21 trading days, averaging $433 per contract per trading day. Now on the year, we're at 52,673. That's over 139 trading days, averaging $378 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Okay. Let's see, hang on, here we go. If you have not taken a free trial, go to the home page, cfrn.net. And right here it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required. You click on that, you'll be brought to this page, eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, all that we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. You can tell us the biggest training challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link, okay? If you don't click that link, we don't know that you took the free trial. All right. And with that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A, overlooking the South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready, and you are ready.
I am ready. Change my name here in the box. I forgot to go in and do that yesterday after the show, as I had planned. So that'll fix that. Okay, recap of the recap.
Today, 19 minutes, 1 trade, $100 contract.
Good job.
Thank you.
Now, what Michael is doing every morning in the live training room, he is showing you how to go in there and how to find these trade opportunities on your own, right? He's teaching you how to trade using our methodology and our strategy. But we go a step beyond that. While you're learning how to spot these setups on your own, 2 hours of live training every day, Monday through Friday, for many years now. We also provide you with 2 different types of alerts, the Concierge Trade Alerts and the Logic 247 Alerts. This kind of gives you a leg up on spotting these opportunities as they develop in the market. So using what you learn in the room from Michael, okay, about how to trade, the methodology, the strategy, how to see the setups, all of that, how to manage risk. You also have the Concierge Alerts, which come out every evening as a static report shortly after the Globex Open. Those numbers are good for the entire session. And important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So we often see the alerts trigger multiple times during the session. Those Concierge Alerts are based on historic price action. The Logic 247 alerts are based on current price action, and those come out in the private Telegram channel around the clock, starting Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, right up through Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern, when the markets close for the week. So you might get an alert at 2 a.m., you might get an alert at 2 p.m. What dictates an alert appearing in the Logic channel is simply opportunity. When opportunity presents itself, that's your signal to go to your chart, get in front of your platform, and see the trade develop, set up, and then use everything that Michael teaches you in the room to manage the trade. Okay? All right. So this week on Logic so far, we're in week 104. We've had a total of 93 alerts. 67 of those were actionable. 13 were still waiting on a disposition. 13 of them never triggered. So we've got 67 actionable. 10 of those have been stopped out. So that's 15% of actionable alerts stopped out so far. That's not a typical number. The typical number is 20%. Okay? 20% on any given week over the last 104 weeks do get stopped out based on this: not risking more than $300 per contract per trade. Let me say that again. That's based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less than possible. So let's talk about a horrible trading week. Okay. Now, usually when you go to a website about trading or you get an email, they're pumping you with how easy it is and how simple. No, they don't use simple. We use simple. They use easy. How easy it is, how you're going to knock it out of the park, how you're going to kill it day after day after day, as if every day is going to be an awesome day. But we know the reality, not every day is an awesome day. So what if you had a horrible trading week? Now, what I'm going to go over right here, this is a function of math. What I'm going to go over right now, it's not even related to necessarily our trading methodology or strategy. It's math. Okay, now we average 15 to 20 alerts per day. We start Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. Now this is just logic. We start Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, and it's around the clock, right up until Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And you just saw how many alerts have been issued so far this week. We've still got the rest of today and all of tomorrow. But we can safely say that we do average 15 to 20 alerts per day. Now, when I jotted this down yesterday, and I posted in the discussion group, we had issued 4,675 alerts over the last 104 weeks. Now, we just saw that this week only 15% have been stopped out so far, but 20% is what we've averaged over the 104 weeks. So let's say on a Monday, you place 10 trades. Okay? Now, the maximum risk on any alert, 6 points. $300, the S&P, 6 points at $50 a point is $300 per contract trade. Okay? Now, there are opportunities to trade an alert and not risk the full 6 points or the full $300 per contract. I teach all of our traders a 3-step methodology based on market structure, which allows them to go in, look at the chart, and let the chart tell them where to put the stop loss. If it doesn't meet that minimum $300 threshold after going through the 3 steps, then we pass and wait for it to trigger again, or we wait for the market to hand us another setup. So let's say on a Monday you place 10 trades and you were forced to risk the full 6 points on every trade. 2 of them get stopped out. That's the 20% that we've averaged over the last 104 weeks. Now, past performance is no guarantee of future results. So just because we've had 104 weeks averaging 20% being stopped out, that's no guarantee that next week it'll be 20%. It's very important that you understand that. Okay? So if you put on 10 trades on a Monday, and based on 20% being stopped out, you're down 12 points based on those stop outs. Now, you never risk more on a trade than you expect to profit from the trade. In other words, let's say you've got a setup and you're going to run into the weekly trading zone in 2 points. That's not a situation where you're going to risk 6 points. There has to be, the minimum ratio is 1 to 1. Okay, so if you're going to risk 6 points on a trade, then the chart has to tell you that there's at least 6 points of potential in the trade. Now, if 2 of these get stopped out of the 10, the other 8 trades, on every one of those, if you're willing to risk 6 points, then you had good reason to believe that you could take 6 points profit out of the trade. But for whatever reason, you only were able to average 2 points profit. Now, again, if you're going to risk 6, there has to be in that chart the potential to earn 6. Okay? But again, for some reason, whatever, on the other 8 trades, you only averaged 2 points per trade. 8 trades times 2 points is 16 points. So if you take the 16 and you subtract the 12 stopped out, the 12 points that were stopped out, right? That's 4 points net. Now, let's say that your lousy Monday turns into an equally lousy Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and you know, pretty soon you've had a lousy week, right? If you're placing 10 trades a day and getting stopped out on 2 of those, that's 10 stop outs over the course of the week. 10 times 5 days, 50. Okay, so you 10 stop outs, 50 trades. Now, back to this example. The lousy math. If using the lousy math over 5 lousy days, you net 4 points per day. That's 20 points net for the week. 20 points times $50 a point is $1,000 per contract traded. Now, placing 10 trades a day, let's say your commission is, well, we're using the S&P as an example, and at Daniel's Trading, the commission $6 per round turn. So you got to go 10 times 5 is 50 times $6 round turn. So that's $300 in commissions. So if you take your commissions out of this leaves you with $700 per contract traded on a lousy week. Now, this is based on a lousy week. This is based on the function of math. It's based on the fact that we have averaged over the last 104 weeks 20% of all alerts being stopped out. Okay, you with me? It's important that you keep all of those things in mind. Now, not every alert makes it to the final target. Some you'll see labeled in the channel with a PT. So that's factored into the fact that you're risking 6 because you see the potential to make 6, but you end up only getting 2 on average. That factors in. In fact, let me just show you the numbers for this week again, right here, so you can put that in perspective. This week, 67 actionable, 48 hit the full target, 9 got a PT. Now, let me show you what the alerts look like. And we'll use stuff from this morning just as an example. On the S&P, we had an alert to be short 3203. Initial target 3201. Potential support 3200. Potential support 3195. And then the final trade 2 target was the weekly zone at 86.87. So from 3203, if we had made it all the way to the final target, 31.87, that's 16 points if we made it the entire distance, but we only made it to this support level. So the actual math for that trade is 3203 minus 3195. It's 8 points. 3203 to 3195, 8 points. Okay? At $50 a point, that's $400 per contract traded. But again, this could be one of those examples where, for whatever reason, you just grab your 2 points and go. But you had a potential of all the way down to here. The reality of where it got was it traveled 8 points. So if you were risking 6, it moved 8 points. And it may move further. We're going to look at the chart in just a second. Similar thing on the Dow, 26045, all the way down to the final target at 25,460. Okay, that's the potential in the trade based on the chart. Okay, crude. This one, all of these we put out in the pre-market strategy session. If you're not coming to the pre-market strategy session and you're a passport holder, you really should, because I think you'll pick up a few things there. So 4015, initial target 4005. So that's 10 ticks in crude at $10 a tick. That's $100. That's the same as 2 points in the S&P per contract. Then we had potential support at $39.95, another potential support area at $39.45, and price did reach the weekly trading zone at $38.80. So if we say 4015 minus 38.80, that's $1.35. Okay, and a $1 move in crude pays $1,000. So this move from the entry to the final target, that's $1,350 per contract. Okay. Now, again, there has to be at least 6 points, or $300 is the number. $300 is the maximum we want to risk, whether it's the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ, crude, gold. And if the setup doesn't allow you to do that using the three-step methodology that we teach based on market structure, then you just have to have the self-discipline to pass until an opportunity appears that is high probability, low risk. Okay? All right. So both of those, the S&P, the crude, the gold, all of those met the criteria. Now let's just go take a look at the charts. Let's jump to the daily. Yesterday, I said I'd be very surprised if we did not make it to the daily BBC. I said that on, I guess, Tuesday night. We were heading down, and then the markets reversed on us. We ran all the way up to red and falling. Very bullish day yesterday. So we opened last night, right here. We opened at 31.95. No, we opened at 32.56.75. And we made it down to the daily BBC. Daily BBC is 31.95, and the low of the daily candle is 31.95. And on that S&P alert this morning, right here, potential support 31.95. Okay. All right. We always look at the big picture first, the daily chart in the pre-market strategy session. We get that tells us what direction price is most likely to head in. Okay. Now, by yesterday morning, we saw that the chance of us getting to the BBC had greatly diminished from the beginning of the session because we opened here. We had a little bit of a red candle. We didn't have far to go, but the markets reversed, took us up to red and falling. Just as we expect the BBC to be good support when we hit it, when we hit red and falling, we expect that to be good resistance. So the market opened up here, dropped all the way to the BBC, bounced. The bounce was 31.95. Well, when we go to the smaller time frame, we can see exactly high it bounced. This may be it right here, but this wick, when price touched the BBC, you can call it support, you can call it rejection. Here's another example over here. Well, here's 3. Price came down, got within just a couple points of the BBC, and boom. Same thing here, same thing here. We tried to get down, we ran into support. The lows of these candles provided good support for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions. We finally climbed up to red and falling, and down we go to the daily BBC. Now, this principle of how price moves from the BBC, up with blue and climbing, down with red and falling, up with blue and climbing, resistance at red and falling. All of those principles apply to the range chart that you use in the morning in the live training room. It applies to the 30-minute chart that all of the alerts are based on. It applies to a 5-minute chart. What we teach you in that room each morning for 2 hours is fluid across every market and every time frame. When we go from the 30-minute to the 5-minute to the range chart, we don't change our indicators, we don't change our methodology, we don't change our strategy. Everything gets treated the same. Talk about equal opportunity traders. No discrimination. We treat every chart and every market exactly the same. Okay? Now, we are at a weekly trading zone right now in the S&P, 3233/34. We punched through the BBC. On this first pullback, it held, sent us down to the low of the session. That support has driven us through this weekly zone, through last week's zone, right up to this zone. I really thought we would find good resistance here and continue down. Leg, retrace, continuation of the leg. This is why we wait for, on a candle like this, we wait for it to close so that we know what it's trying to do. Price is always trying to get to a weekly zone. So closing above the BBC tells us that price is trying to get to the zone overhead. Now, we had an alert in the channel to get short, 3203, I think it was. A second one. Here, let me see what the second one was. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, 32. We had a second one at 3203, but it never came back down and picked us up. Let's see which candle that was on. Okay, that's John. We haven't talked to John in a few days, so I'm going to stop the recap right now. I'm going to open up John's mic so we can talk to him. Dr. Tom will be here at the top of the hour, so I will still go through the entire recap. Okay, we'll go through the Dow and the crude, and we'll take a look at all of it, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Let me just get your mic open, John. Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Hi there.
Hope you're feeling better.
How are you doing?
I say, are you feeling better?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, what you were just saying actually makes a lot of sense, Dwayne. I think this, these bad numbers that came out this morning, just like too off the charts for the market to go any lower, and we turned around pretty smartly. As a matter of fact, I've kind of generated a pretty big buy signal here on this thing today, and it's continuing higher as we speak, as you alluded to. It's gone past your BBC line, and it's starting to look pretty bullish. And
yeah, I still expect resistance here, John. And if it pokes up any further, then I'm looking at resistance at 32.45 or whatever that's worth.
Well, what surprised me a little bit this morning was that Microsoft took a bit of a hit early. Looks like it tested the 200, and it's right back up again, which is pretty impressive. And Apple continues to push higher. There's some sort of a rumor out there about Apple coming up with kind of a competitor to what Elon Musk is doing from space with the internet. Some kind of a global wireless internet service, which would just suck the blood out of all the phone companies and everything. Supposed to be released in the last few days. I guess nothing's come out yet, but if it was released, it would be a monumental surprise. And if it's executable, because this is like bringing the internet down to dollars and cents instead of $50, $100, $150,
sure,
sort of thing. And
yeah, and it takes the internet to underserved rural areas, which
right.
There's a lot of places in America that people still don't have access to broadband internet.
Well, I think what Apple's actually working on, just similar to Musk, would be a seamless connection wherever you go in the around the world. Mm-hmm. And maybe the technology's gotten to that level now somehow through some kind of wavelengths and things like that.
So now it's going to be a race to see who can get to market first. Elon, or I signed up for Elon's beta test. I guess I should check my email and see if they ever email me back. Go ahead.
So, honest to God, it was 4 or 5 months ago. Remember I said that Trump should have a kind of a fireside chat and talk about hydroxy and how it could be, potentially made available to everybody. Mm-hmm. You saw this big thing this week about this doctor who treated 350 patients and every one of them survived. I mean, this is a terrible story. I mean, I think Trump deserves to win the election already just for his efforts. Imagine if instead of all this negativity, a lot of, I explained to him, I mean, this is a sort of a really, what's the word? It's just like beyond complicated virus that you just don't know if we said this like 6 months ago. You don't know if there's a target on your back or there isn't. Mm-hmm. Some people, this virus is gunning for some people, and I guess if it gets you, you're. I mean, the fellow came out of 100 days hospital yesterday.
Are you talking about Herman Cain?
Sorry,
Herman Cain.
I don't know about him, but
he
some
he
guy
passed away today.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh God,
COVID, yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
and he's a pretty hefty guy, and that doesn't protect you. And the thing is that it just, obviously my number one priority has been to avoid getting this thing in your lungs, because I think if you get it in their lungs, you're done. Your chances of survival. And the problem is it overwhelms people. Some people, it overwhelms them really, really quickly, and other people can defend against it. So it's just tragic. But
yeah, it is.
and obviously it's accelerating. We're going up at a fairly rapid clip now. Almost 1 million every couple of days worldwide, and Mexico is actually catching up to the U.S. Right now. I think by tonight, Mexico will be the third worst case of deaths. They're about to overtake the UK by the looks of it. So you got the U.S., Brazil, Mexico, and then a bunch of other.
Well, we're still at
countries.
a place, based on the CDC numbers, where less than half of 1% of people who get infected with the virus actually die.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think the viral, the evidence of infection, nationwide, it's probably going to be what our doctor friend said months ago, 60 to 80 million people, in fact, actual positive.
Mm-hmm.
But a fraction of those actually die. So
Right.
the
And every
death rate.
death is tragic, because I certainly don't want to minimize anyone's loved one or anyone here who has had COVID and has been sick. I understand that some people who get it, the ones that don't die are very, very, very sick, like they've never been sick before. Others test positive and they have, much milder symptoms. So in no way do I want to minimize the seriousness of this virus and the tragedies, but I also want everyone to keep a clear perspective that, just looking at the numbers, a function of math, we're talking about a death rate of less than half of 1% of the people who actually become infected. That should be encouraging, because there's so much fear-mongering going on out there. And I think people have to start to think clearly. Otherwise, our economy, our country, is going to go into a very serious depression. We're going to have a recession anyway. We felt the physical effects of this virus, right? But the economic effects they haven't even started yet. It's going to be a long road coming out of here. Long road.
If we've got some time next week, or even tomorrow, perhaps, there's a few videos I'd like to play that are kind of very interesting. And
if you send them to me ahead of time, I can load them into the GoTo platform so that they actually play well without stuttering and sputtering and all that stuff.
Yeah. The amount of money in the system is unprecedented, and that's the reason why we are where we are today in the markets. And it's just staggering the way some of these stocks. Look at this. PayPal went up huge yesterday or today, and
they beat their earnings and took off.
And look at Overstock, Dwayne. Jesus Christ, that stock has sort of gotten the Amazon touch, and it's
now I understand. Incredible. I believe that Patrick Burns stepped down. Patrick was one of the very first interviews I did here on CFRN. Patrick Burns, right, the founder of Overstock.com. Let's take a look at the Overstock chart. What is it, OSTK?
Correct.
There we go.
Look at that.
That's 30-minute. Let's put it on daily. Okay, there's a daily chart of wow, look at that. They did report earnings yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, there's a lot of these.
Looks like
there's a lot of these stocks that are just on fire. You just got to kind of try and get long and stay long, because the surprises are on the upside. And clearly, I think there's a new all-time high. Or I don't know about a new all-time high on this or not. but it's pretty, certainly multiple decade highs for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
got a
high
little
at
bit more
90
to go.
bucks.
I mean, it looks like it's gunning for 100 for sure now, this stock. Look at that.
Yeah, yeah, we're, okay, so there's, back in 2005, looks like we hit 77 bucks, and then in 2017, we hit 89 bucks, and our high today is 78.83. Or this week, or month, I'm sorry, this is a monthly chart. Well,
Yeah, so, you know, it's a very powerful chart, by
I
the
mean,
way.
look at that. That's the monthly candle right there. I mean, in
Yeah,
the
it looks
course
like
of a month, we've gone from 30 bucks to 80 bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing's more than doubled.
Yeah, they hit the sweet spot. They probably found the formula. And, you know, Amazon, it's like Melly, you know, all these commerce stocks are doing fantastic. You know, look, Tesla made a low this morning. As a matter of fact, if you want to put Tesla up,
Sure.
I think Tesla's getting ready for another run here.
Now that's the
possibly.
monthly. We'll drop down to a daily, but that's the monthly chart, guys. This is a pretty. Let's get this month. We've gone from 1,084 to 1,800. This thing's up $800 per share this month.
I think Tesla could lead the charge. I mean, the way the world is looking, honestly, Dwayne, you know, it's kind of, we could be in for a bit of a melt up going into a possible 87 type scenario late August, because obviously this high that was touted this week hasn't really panned out, at least yet. And the way, you see the way Tesla's consolidating here, this is what it's been doing all the way up. So this is a big consolidation. So the next up move, if we break out, and we're already on a green candle here, you know, if we suddenly gap up tomorrow and get back over 1,600, we could be, you know, really heading up to about 2,200 on the Tesla. You remember I called it at 800 back, you know, before the space flight.
Yeah, I remember.
And look what happened. And by the way, coffee, remember coffee? Check that out. And I think the sugar is starting to get hot because of the hurricanes.
There's coffee on a daily. I think
Called
this
that
is
at
delayed
90,
data.
about 98, remember? So,
Right.
it's, and look, the fact that we're, I mean, the fact that we've gone up this much now, it's really starting to make this, in fact, the monthly is probably going to be very bullish close tomorrow on the coffee. And we've got possible frost in Brazil and things like that that are probably behind this rally. And you know, Starbucks did well too, you know, last couple of days. Things coming back to normal. But I think the lows are in on the coffee for a long time, maybe forever. So,
James, Overstock.com. It's an online retail company. Kind of like Amazon. Of course, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that Amazon does, but you can buy everything on there, from a comforter for your bed to a chair. I mean, you name it, they got it. They got it all. Overstock.com. It was founded by a guy, Patrick Byrne, very, very smart guy. I'd love to put him and Elon Musk in a room together.
yeah.
That would be an interesting conversation. I'd love to be a fly on that wall. What else you want to take a look at?
Just, you know, I haven't spoken about the gold for a while, but I think you heard it here first. I was the one who said 2,700 juggernaut move, virtually unstoppable, and that's what's going on here. You know, there's one of the videos I want to play is an absolute mind blower, because what's really happening in the real world, you know, we identified this a year ago, Dwayne, when we started seeing these repos and the Fed were coming in and sort of doing things that people like real estate billionaire worth about $5 billion started buying gold for the first time in his life at 1,300, and that tells you something. This guy wasn't betting on a few $100 upside. And
Look at how silver has outpaced gold on this move.
Right, and look, we've just gone to the December overnight last night, so we gapped higher, we sold off, and now we're going higher again. We're only down 11.
Yeah, guys,
silver's
we
gotten
rolled
down.
forward today to the December contract, the Z contract.
So we came down to 23 on the silver. Look, I wouldn't rule out possible test of the 20 or even the 19 on the silver, which would be a real gift if it were to happen. However, the market is so strong, and especially with the December kicking in, because now the next stop is 2,000. Probably 2,200. Without interruption. If we break above 2,250, somewhere like that, maybe then we'll pull back to 2,000. Then we could run to 2,700, something like that. But I think this is a juggernaut, and the Fed have to keep printing money, because if they don't, the economy is going to collapse, and obviously they can't allow that to happen. And really, they've been doing that for the last year now, believe it or not, because the virus, when it kicked in, it just became a catalyst. When they did the repos, we had the melt up into January, February, into our, listen, we were talking about the top before the virus was even in the game. Remember, we were talking about the March top in the six months ahead of time, and the story of what happened. Some people made a lot of money out of our advice, billions, and greatest trade of all time on the UVX, on the TVIX, 26 times upside in 30 days. I don't think there's ever been a stock like that. So, however, we're actually, the VIXs are kind of bottoming out here in a way. So you need to be keeping an eye on those again for the possible, for any kind of a surprise down move that could. I think it's honestly good. This thing is so strong. It could be more. It could go into September. Maybe we'll have a September top and a dip into October. I think at the end of the day, even if we get some sort of a panic crash or October surprise, it might be a little bit like the election night last year, where prior to the election we have some sort of a dip scare, really possibly a really bad one, a multi-thousand point decline, and then we could come roaring back up into the election, and Trump hopefully pulls it off. That's kind of the way it feels to me. And of course it's such an unknown, because we don't know if we're going to have 20 million cases or 50 million or 100 million by then, because it could be any one of those three, and obviously that will probably have a significant impact on things. So it's we said a long time ago there were no guarantees with this election, and unfortunately the deep state has managed to thwart it. Who knows, but we'll just have to pray that we get through this and we come out with the right ending. So otherwise we're all done.
Yeah. Did you watch the testimony on Capitol Hill with at the House with the Attorney General Barr?
I saw a little bit of it, but it was kind of
the most
nauseating.
shameful thing you've ever seen in your life?
Yeah, too hard to watch. It's just terrible. I mean, these people.
That was intentional. They never intended to give him a chance to answer any questions, because the second he would start to answer, they just wanted to hurl accusations, and then as soon as he would try to answer, they would say, I regained my time. So that was the game plan going in. We're not going to let him answer questions. We're just going to hurl accusation after accusation, because that gives the liberal media all of these sound bites to play over and over and turn them into political commercials, where you've got all of these known figures hurling these accusations at the Attorney General, and there'll be a picture of him just sitting there with his mouth hanging open, because they'll edit it up real good. And it's just shameful. I know what they're going to do with it. I know why they did it. I think everybody does. I'm no genius by any stretch. So these are dark times, folks.
Yeah, no, they've been doing this, and this has been their MO since, for the whole of the last 4 years.
I mean, the very day, the day of his inauguration was the day that they announced they were going to begin the impeachment proceedings.
Dwayne, put up ZM Zoom. It's getting hammered here right now. Really
Zoom's
hammered.
got some competitors out there.
And
Some
that's
of them aren't
crashing.
even publicly traded companies. Some of them are privately held. I mean, anybody that knows how to write code can build one of these platforms. Here's Zoom on daily chart.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's been sneaking its way down, but it's look how much it's come off $40 from the high. So it's pretty significant.
Yeah, even if it pulled back into this area here, I mean, that's just a little breather for the next leg up. So,
So, well, listen, have a great
hey, John, I'm just glad
afternoon.
you were able to join us today. Glad you're feeling better. Look forward to having you on again tomorrow if you're up to it. And
Thank you.
anything I can do,
Okay,
let
all
me
the
know.
best.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Dr. Tom, I see that you're here. You are muted on your end. So when you unmute yourself, I'll unmute you over here. So just type into the chat box, I guess, when you're ready to go. Okay, there you are. You've got an open
All
mic.
right.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, sir. How's things been going?
Good. Been an incredible day.
Totally going crazy, baby.
Keep an eye up here on this bearish cross, guys. This is potential resistance. Now, yes, the S&P has managed to make it through the BBC. It's now managed to make it through this zone at 33.34. The next zone overhead is up at 32.68. But long before we see 68, price is going to have to deal with 32.45 right here. So now that resistance could send us back to the zone where we find good support, and then we continue the uptrend. Or this very well could mark the high of the session. So we trade what's in front of us. Right now, the move is on to the upside. You could be long 32.40 to 32.42 to 32.45. I'll even put that in the alert channel while I'm talking here with the good doctor. Are you going to use the charts today? You're going to use the screen? I'll send them over to you if you are. Okay, I'm not sure if that's a yes or a no.
Yes.
That's a
Okay,
yes.
sorry about that.
Okay, here they come.
Someone was asking me a question.
Sure. Happens to me all the time.
Show my screen. I need to close some of these things. So many things open on my computer. I got this new computer. It's a lot more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I end up having more and more things open at the same time. All right. Well, before I start, can I ask you a question, Dwayne?
You certainly can.
I'd like to know the exact day that gold is going to hit 3,000. Can you look that up for me?
For you, I would, but I left that time machine in my other pants. So.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking tomorrow it hits 2,000.
Okay.
A lot of momentum. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Well, let me bring my chart back up and I'll tell you.
I mean, Friday was the first time it ever closed circulated. Friday was the first time it ever closed above its all-time high. And
Now, we did roll forward to the December contract, and so we're trading into resistance right now. So intraday, in fact, I'll put out an alert on this, guys. We're going to be short 1960 down to probably 57, 58. But we gotta let this play out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a daily chart of gold.
It'll probably be a couple hundred.
In fact, see, we're in the December contract. GG. See. Let me spell it right. GGCZ. Okay. Daily. All right. Well, we touched on the December contract, we touched 2000 exactly to the tick on July 28th. You can't see my charts now.
Not at the moment, no. But July 28th.
Now that's not spot gold.
I understand.
That's a futures contract. Yesterday, the swing high was 1998.40. And we opened last night at 1986.40, and we're currently trading 1963. So we've got a red candle on the day. But we had, on the daily chart, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had 9 green candles in a row on the daily chart. Now, that's just shy of becoming some kind of parabolic move, and we know that parabolic moves usually don't end well. So I'm actually glad to see gold do what it's doing. We need a retracement if this thing's going to stay healthy and keep going higher. So let me just draw fibs of this last leg.
What you're calling a parabolic run. The guy who, what's his name? Who runs Investors Business Daily. Cannot remember his name, but anyway, he's written a lot of books. He calls it a climax run. If it's just going up too far, too fast, then that can be dangerous. But the things that encourage me is Thursday, it broke through its all-time intraday high, and Friday, which is more important to me, it closed above its all-time closing high. And so it closed in 1907, and it did something I hardly ever see gold do. It gapped up 23 points over the weekend. I mean, that's kind of unusual, isn't it?
I'm sorry, what gap now?
Gold gapped up 23 points over the weekend, from Friday's close to Sunday night's open.
Let's see. Friday was, let's see, Sunday was the 26th. Here's the, okay. So Friday, on the futures, Friday we closed at 1928. And then Sunday night we, Friday was the 24th.
Yeah, and it closed at what?
Closed at 1928.
Wow. It was only 1907 on the spot.
And then Sunday night we opened at 1929.
Okay, so it gapped a little there, but on the spot price it gapped 23 points. And when it opened Sunday night, I'm sitting there watching it. It was going up $1 a minute, just boom, 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 boom. So,
yeah, silver's been the real performer for us this week. We've had several $5,000 per contract alerts this week. At one night, we had 2 $5,000 moves back to back. It was the same identical trade. A $1 move in the price of silver is worth $5,000 per contract. A $1 move in gold is worth $100 per contract.
Well,
it's kind of crazy, huh? But it's the truth.
Silver and gold, you know, they always seem to run together. But
well, I heard something the other day that I thought that you would find interesting. You know, every mine is different. You know, when people are bringing gold and silver out of the belly of the earth, different mines produce different ratios of gold to silver and whatnot. But the accepted standard is that there's a 10-to-1 ratio between gold and silver. In other words, for every ounce of gold that God put in the belly of the earth, he put 10 ounces of silver in the belly of the earth. So a 10-to-1 ratio. So if gold's trading at 2,000 an ounce, what should silver be trading at? Based on that 10-to-1 ratio. Sounds like $200 to me. It's never been there before.
Well, you know, I've heard much different numbers on the ratio.
I'm quoting some guy that's bases his on biblical. He's a biblical scholar type guy. I'll send you his comments.
I'd be interested because I've heard as high as 70 or 80 times as much silver.
Wow.
And the lowest I've ever heard is 50 times as much. But what interests me the most is that if you look at the traditional silver gold ratio price wise, when the market is not being controlled, when it's just allowed to run, it's typically around 50-to-1. Okay. Which reflects what I believe is in the amount of silver and gold that exists. But anyway, the reason why I say that there's never going to be a better time to buy than right now as far as gold, just specifically gold, is because there's no overhead supply. I mean, silver got up to $49. There are millions and millions of people that watch it go from $49 down to what was 11, and they're waiting for it to get back up to their price so that they're break even, and most of them, or a lot of it, we sell. There's nobody that owns gold above this level, so there's nothing to hold it back. So that's why I feel good.
Yeah, you look good.
Yeah, I thought about James Brown when all this was happening, because it's just, you know, everything to me says gold is going to.
Well, gold has always been where anytime there's fear, people turn to gold. And I don't know that there's ever been more fear in the world than there is right now. A lot of it because of the hysteria that's been created around this COVID-19. And we just had this conversation with John, but it's not that it isn't a real thing. And we're saddened at the loss of every life. Every life lost is a tragedy. Unfortunately, every life ends in death. The good news about this coronavirus is that of those who actually contract it, less than half of 1% ultimately die from it, at least so far.
Which is about the same as the common flu.
That should be very encouraging, but yet the media has used it to fearmonger people.
Yeah. At first they were saying 10% of the people would die. You know, they don't know. They're using these models.
Herman Cain passed away today.
I have some good news. As far as, by the way, the correct name is the China virus, because they invented it and they sent it. But I have some good news about it.
I hope they're the ones that invented it.
Well,
I'd hate to find out that we had our finger in that pie.
I just can't even imagine that. That would be.
There's a lot going on right now I couldn't imagine a year ago.
Exactly. But anyway, the good news is the China virus will be over on November 4th.
I'm sorry, what?
It's going to end on November 4th. You won't hear anything more about it on the news. You know,
right?
They've taken what really is a bad flu and turned it into a worldwide panic.
Yeah.
I was just reading this morning. Many of the countries in Europe have never done a lockdown. Many have never worn masks, and they have lower rates of infection than we do. So, and they never closed down their schools. That's a big thing. Making little kids stay at home where maybe their grandparents are having to live, because frankly, when this thing started, if my mom had been in a nursing home, I would have gone down to a nursing home, grabbed her, tossed her in my back seat, and brought her home, because that's the most dangerous place to be on earth. But there's a lot of people, grandparents, that are living in houses with little children. And so it's much safer for them to be at school than cooped up in a house all day long. Safer for them to be outside than being forced to stay inside. So anyway, it's, to me, and I've been saying this from the beginning because I've really studied this in a serious way, just the way I study economics and political things. This is going to turn out to be no worse than your average really bad year of the flu.
Well, here's the figures as of today. Just over 153,000 Americans have been recorded as having died from the coronavirus. Now, we're just accepting that every toe tag that says coronavirus, that really was the reason. We know that there's a lot of reasons why doctors and hospitals and universities are being pressured to put coronavirus on the toe tag when that's not necessarily why they died. But we just go with that number. Just over 153,000 Americans have been recorded as having died from the coronavirus. Fewer than 200 of them were below the age of 25. In the most recent week of data available, a total of 408 people between the ages of 15 and 24 died in the U.S., 5 of which were from the coronavirus. For the 5 to 14 age range, the figures were 53 total deaths, 0 from coronavirus. During the 2018,
and only 20 children, only 20 children, not just in the United States, but worldwide, are reportedly have died of the coronavirus. But
Okay.
here's the thing. Whatever number they're giving you, cut it in half, because almost the great majority of these people were very elderly people, and they were already circling the drain. I mean, literally, they would have died in 2020 if this had never happened of heart disease, lung disease, kidney disease, whatever. But what they're doing is everybody who dies in a hospice, they're making them put coronavirus on. They don't even test them. If you die in hospice, it's coronavirus. I heard a doctor the other day, he was just furious. At his emergency room, they had 2 people came in, one from a motorcycle accident and one for something else, and they marked him down as coronavirus because the hospitals get $13,500 from the federal government for every person who dies in their hospital of the coronavirus. So they're even testing corpses. They're taking people that died of a heart attack or died of cancer. They know the cause of death, and they're testing their blood after they die. And if there's even a scintilla of the virus in their bloodstream, then they're calling it COVID. And almost every one of us by this time have at least a trace of it. It's just like we all have cancer cells in our body. We don't die of cancer because of our immune system. This thing is spread so wide that we all, if almost everybody that's tested would have a little bit of it in them. And they use it as an excuse to mark it as a corona test. So if you cut the number in half, which I believe is the real number, it's less than some of the worst years of the flu.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the way I believe it's going to happen. But anyway, let's talk about why I feel good.
Okay.
Because this is going to be a really, really good year for gold. Bank of America recommending the buying of gold has pushed it up a lot, but the fact that their target price is 3,000 is pretty impressive. But there are people that have been right about the movement of gold more than anybody else. Like 9 out of 10 times, they're just saying $5,000 gold. And it's not just because of normal price movements. And it's not because of the things I've been talking about, like the broken supply chain. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of mine workers are laid off. They're not mining. The three largest refineries in the world are shut down. Most of the mints are only operating at partial capacity, partly because the governments won't let them, because they make them move the machines, separate them, put plastic shields, so they only got like a quarter of their people, but also because they can't get gold from the refineries because the refineries shut down. So that's a supply problem, which causes price to go up. There's this huge demand problem I talked about last week, where we've gone from 2% of Americans that own physical gold. So you and I are in a very elite class, Dwayne, of people, or at least was very elite as of the end of the year, 2% own physical gold. Today, that's almost 20%. So 1,000% increase. So demand is up, which pushes price up. Supply is down. So we've got a double whammy, a two-way squeeze, both happening at the same time. But I had people call me up. I sold just over the weekend. I sold over $1 million worth of gold. But people say, well, you know, gold's at 1,900, so I want to get 10 ounces. What is that? $19,000? No, that's the spot price, and nobody buys at the spot price except the government and maybe some really, really huge people that are worth trillions of dollars or billions, and they can negotiate and buy it slightly over spot from the refiners. But bottom line, the mints are the ones that buy the gold at spot. It's like the prime rate. You know, nobody ever gets a loan at the prime rate. If you get a mortgage, it's going to be prime plus 1.25. You get a credit card, prime plus 9.5, or whatever. The prime rate is just a bank-to-bank rate, and the spot rate is basically a refiner to the mint rate. So here's who makes money on gold. First of all, the mint makes a profit, you know, because they have to manufacture and turn the raw gold into coins. And particularly the U.S. Mint, they are, as far as I can concern, price gouging. I can get Canadian maple leafs and Crude Oils for $50 an ounce less than the U.S. Mint coins. So they're really making a big profit. But any mint has to make a profit. They don't stay in business. Then you have mint dealers. These are people who have contracts with the Royal Mint of England or the U.S. Mint that buy millions and millions of dollars every year, and they have to buy that much in order to be a mint dealer. And so they sell it at a profit to the wholesalers. Well, the wholesalers, they get a profit naturally. And it finally gets down to distributor level, which is more local. Like, you know, we have several distributors in South Florida where I live, and they make a profit. And then they sell it to me, and I hope I can make a profit, because sometimes it's very hard to even make 1 or 2%, at least on bullion. So what it boils down to is don't expect to buy gold at the spot price. There's always a premium, and as demand goes up, the premium widens. There's at some point, like for instance, US $20 coins that were making $100 premium over spot, they got up to as high as $300 premium. It's all based on supply and demand. But whatever price you pay, it's a good price today because it's never going to get lower. There's a long-term chart you can see there. In 2011, the intraday high was, actually I think this chart's a little low because the intraday high was actually 1907. At least I saw printed that. And today we're way above that. And then short term, I didn't have time to draw a trend line, but very, very obvious that we're in a strong uptrend. And I agree with Dwayne. It's good that it's pulled back a little today. I wouldn't even mind if it closed down for a day or two, because it's been closing up every day. But I'm sure, Dwayne, you used this phrase many times. The trend is your friend, right? You know, you don't want to fight the trend. If something's trending down and you stand in front of it, it's going to squash you. So I like the idea of buying when something's trending up. You know, I think I've got it here. It's kind of funny. Well, where is it? I'm getting way behind here. There it is. Okay. How many people have you heard say, you know, I like to buy low and sell high, right?
Everyone.
Yeah, and they all think they invented that. They say it like, oh, I came up with this cool phrase, right? And so I'll ask them, I say, well, how's it working out for you? And they say, well, I lost money this year. I said, how about last year? They say, well, a little softer. Well, I lost money then too. I said, how about the year before that? Now they're practically whispering, yeah, I lost money there. Trying to buy at the very low and sell at the very high is what's called greed. And it's actually unbiblical. If you look in the Old Testament, where it talks about the what the farmers are supposed to do, they were told specifically by God not to glean the field. In other words, not to try and get every last little bit of grain out, but leave some for the poor people who would come in afterwards and grab it. So people that try to sell at the very high, they usually get slammed, because by the time the high happens, you know, most everything goes down twice as fast as it goes up. Same thing with trying to buy at the low. It's like trying to catch a falling knife. It's a fool's game. I say, well, why did you buy there? Well, I believe it's the low. And I said, you know what? The market doesn't care what you believe, because look at it now. And it's already gone down another 10%. Nobody knows when the low is. I mean, you can look at a chart, you can make your best guess, and if you're trading, that's fine. But when it comes to gold, it's crazy to try and buy when it's trending down. And when you buy at the low, that's what's happening. It's trending down. So my philosophy is to buy high and sell high. And as a stockbroker, I made millions of dollars for my clients. I averaged over 50% a year in stocks. I know some of you guys make a lot more than that trading commodities, but in stocks, 50% is pretty good. In some years, I got it close to 100%. But I only bought after the bottom had been hit and after it was trending up. And I wouldn't buy unless it was at least 10% up, and preferably 20%. So I tried to get like that middle 80%, because I'm not greedy. I would make sure I was off the bottom, and I would sell when I saw it getting close to the high, because once it rolls over, like I say, it goes down much faster. Again, that's in stocks, but it's also been true in gold. I'm sorry. Can you say that louder? I didn't quite hear it. Oh, yes. All right. They do. Yeah. people become don't wanters really quickly, right? Yep. No, that's what happens. And it seems to be pretty universal across all different types of assets. I mean, I have no experience with commodities, but it's sure been the case with options, which I traded a lot. I was an options principal. Certainly stocks, indices, and precious metals, which I've been trading now for quite a while. So there are a lot of indicators that say this gold is going to go up, but I can talk about one for a second here that's not on my charts, on my PowerPoints, and that is central banks. Central banks, not a lot of people know much about central banks, but every country has one, even the smallest little banana republic, and every one of them owns gold. So that's a good thing for gold because, like when I was buying stocks, unless at least 50% of the stock that was outstanding was owned by a mutual fund or other large institution, they call it institutional sponsorship. Unless that at least 50% institutional sponsorship, I didn't buy it, because if 80 or 90% of the stock is owned by day traders and it misses earnings by a penny, you hear the sound of 10 million mouse clicks all over the country, and the stock drops 20, 30% just because it missed earnings by a penny. Whereas institutions don't react to small things like that. And so it gives stability to the stock. Well, the fact that all central banks own gold gives it stability. I don't know of a single central bank anywhere in the world, and I've tried to find them, that owns silver. Okay, it's another reason why gold is much more stable in its movement than silver. It's because the central banks own it. But the danger there is the central banks can also, they're in the position to manipulate gold. And that's what they did. Once it hit 1900, it was making their currencies look bad. The higher gold is, the worse it makes the euro look, or the yen, or the dollar. So they sold tons. Go back and research it. You'll see where that almost every central bank in the world was selling tons and tons of gold. And they drove the price down. And if people held on, I mean, if you own gold, the first rule of owning gold is don't sell it. Okay. Once you buy it, don't sell it, because it's always going to go up. You can't say that about any other asset class. But for 3,000 years, an ounce of gold has bought the same amount of anything you can think of, food, clothing, labor, materials, housing, whatever. But anyway, a lot of people got scared when they saw gold dropping, so they sold. And then the central banks now have been buying it back at much lower prices. So it's worked out great for them. They drove the price down, sold at a very high price, and then buy it back low. And now their coffers are full again. But that's one of the things that's pushing gold up. Okay, let's look at some other things. Buying patterns. I already mentioned this. I have a lot of big clients, and I've been watching them for the last year and a half, selling their stocks and buying gold. And it's almost universal. 90% of them that buy serious amounts of gold have sold stock to buy it. About 10% have sold real estate or something else. One fundamental about gold I already mentioned is the fact that it's at an all-time high and there's no overhead supply. I kind of got ahead of myself on that. I also got ahead of myself on this. These big buyers have been buying it for the last year and a half. That's why I've been so negative on the stock market and so bullish on gold. It's because people that are a lot bigger and a lot smarter than me have been selling stocks and buying gold. Dwayne mentioned the fear factor. Used to be when there was great fear in the world, wars and rumors of wars, people would buy US dollars because we had this wonderful stable currency. Well, we don't anymore. They're not buying dollars anymore. They're buying gold. And then the main thing that's going to push gold over $5,000, even if we don't have a crash. If we have a crash, gold goes to 20,000 in a heartbeat. But it's this monstrous national debt, which sits at 26 trillion right now. The real national debt is 158 trillion. The way every other country measures their debt, the way the IMF reports the debt of every country, including ours, they say 158 trillion. We say 26 trillion because we don't report on the unfunded liabilities. But even if it was 26 trillion, Congress wants to spend another 10 or 12 trillion this year alone. So everybody got upset when Obama raised the national debt by $1 trillion a year. They thought that was awful. We're going to raise it by $1 trillion a month unless something happens to stop Congress, because this money that they want to spend is not to help people out. You know, the people will get a little bit here and a little bit there. I mean, I know some people that got a $1,200 check, but Congress has already spent trillions of dollars on COVID relief. Has that helped you any? It's mostly going to pork to help the people that wrote the laws get reelected. So they're going to push the national debt up to the point where when Obama left office, we were spending 43 cents out of every dollar was borrowed money, which is horrendous. Nobody can survive that. But if they go ahead with everything they have planned now, in addition to the current national debt, which unfortunately under Trump has also grown, we would be spending 88 cents out of every dollar will be borrowed money. And that's assuming that our revenues stay the same. Does anybody think with almost 30% unemployment that the revenues, the tax revenues the government's going to get are going to stay the same? No, they're going to go way down from individuals. How about businesses? Businesses pay a huge, huge portion of our national debt. How many million businesses have already gone under, and how many million more are going to? So it's probably going to be more than 88 cents. Go ahead, Dwayne. Oh, well, thank you. You're supposed to say amen. That's what us preachers are used to. Okay. Current events. I don't need to tell you that America's burning. I mean, this is, again, it's all political. If you look at the places where the police not refuse, the police want to, but the mayors and the governors will not let them stop the riots. They're all Democrat-run cities and states. Oh, and the destruction of America. That's right. Yeah, the founders of it were two lesbians, and one of the main things they say that they're for is supporting lesbians, transgenders, queers. That's one of their main goals. There's very little on their website about racial equality. And they say they brag that they are Marxist trained and that they're Marxist teachers. In other words, they've got enough training that they can teach other people to be Marxist. Every country that's gone socialist or communist has crashed and burned. And what Dwayne said just now, he's not kidding. These people are being paid. The cops in these various different cities are checking the license plates of the people that are running these riots. And most of them are from out of state. George Soros, Bill Gates, a lot of big people with lots of money are donating money to Black Lives Matter because they believe that if things are crazy enough, that this will cause Biden to be elected.
I support my black friends, but I don't support BLM. I support my white friends, but I don't support the KKK. I don't support hate groups, and that's what BLM is. It's a hate group.
Well put. Well put. Because, you know, what they do is they use a name that they think everybody will identify with. Black Lives Matter. Well, of course, you know, I totally believe every life matters.
And people have been shot. I was just reading an article yesterday. This somehow never made it into the big story, but a woman in some Midwestern town on the 4th of July weekend, along came a BLM rally, and she stood up and said, well, all lives matter. They shot her dead right on the spot. Bam.
Yeah. And by the way, all black lives don't matter to Black Lives Matter, because they've murdered, I don't know how many, but dozens of black police officers and federal agents.
They burned black-owned businesses. This has nothing to do with the color of a person's skin. That's all just a smokescreen.
But the mayor of Portland, after 60 days of solid rioting every single night, most of the cities, they go out and riot on the weekend. They go back to whatever else they do during the week. But Portland, every single night. And finally, they were trying to burn down the federal courthouse. So a week and a half ago, Trump sent in federal agents, which by law are required to protect federal property.
Oh, and they've been painted as these heinous stormtroopers, these secret police, grabbing people off the street and shoving them into unmarked cars, never to be seen from or heard from again. Well, what a lot of drama. You know, Tim just made a comment, and Tim said, hopefully the Chinese Communist Party will crash and burn soon. You know, they're teeter-tottering over there, too. You know, China's this huge economic powerhouse, but they've got their own trouble and strife inside of their country, too. And
Tim, about 10 years ago, I was reporting about the national debt of various different countries, and I remarked on the fact that Russia and China, the two largest communist countries in the world, had practically no debt. Okay, but now that they've started trying to use their communist ideology and must make money using capitalism, they have huge debt as well. So as far as China, yeah, they are not the economic powerhouse that they were 10 years ago because they've taken on so much debt.
Well,
they're doing more business now.
You know, it's not a free-for-all with America's economy. Trump, thankfully, put a stop to a lot of that nonsense.
Yeah, and so they're going to have a lot less income coming in. But one thing I have to say about China, They're much smarter than us in this. You know, for 50 years, the United States didn't allow Americans to own gold, which is asinine. But China encourages their citizens to buy gold.
They're currently encouraging their citizens to buy stocks. There's a big push now for every Chinese citizen to own stocks.
Okay. Well, it used to be the biggest gold trade show in the world was in Orlando, and it attracted around 12,000 people every year. Now the biggest gold show in the world is in Beijing, and they're getting over 250,000 people in. So they're encouraging their people to buy gold. And remember, this is a communist country, so whatever the people own, the country owns. And they're buying tons and tons of gold, okay? And they've been very public about their desire for a gold-backed currency. So if they do what FDR did and confiscate all the citizens' gold and have all these tons of gold that they've already bought, that will double the amount of gold the government owns. And if they back their currency, the renminbi, with gold, instantly they become the world reserve currency. I can talk more about that next week, but we will no longer be the world reserve currency, and our standard of living will drop right away. So America's burning because people think it's going to get Trump elected. They're overblowing the China virus, making it much scarier than it really is, false reporting of deaths. Here in Florida, where I live, there was this huge spike in the number of positive tests. And so the governor's office said, something's wrong here. So they started looking at the results from the labs individually. They found dozens of independent labs where 100% of the tests that they did, people tested positive. Well, that's going to push your infection rate up, right? So they questioned, they went down and looked at records. They said, we thought we were only supposed to report the positive ones. We didn't report any of the negative ones, which is, you know, I don't believe that they were that stupid. I don't know any 16-year-old kid to be that stupid. But then there were several huge groups like this, I can't remember the exact name, but there's a chain, a group of hospitals in Orlando. They came up with 96% positive. Well, again, that's impossible. It just doesn't happen. So the governor said, go back and recheck those tests. And miraculously, they came back with 8% that were positive. There was another chain that was reporting 92% positive. After rechecking, they came back with 8% positive. So it was all a ploy, because New York has been bragging about how much better they did than Florida, even though they have 5 times as many deaths as Florida, even though Florida has a bigger population and a much bigger elderly population, but it's run by a Democrat who's very strong in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. So they had to do something to bring Florida to its knees. So all of a sudden we had this huge number of infections, but the death rate stays the same. Hospitalization rate stays the same. So be careful who you listen to. The economic crash, we've already seen millions of small businesses went under practically right away because they couldn't pay their leases. So their building's gone, their equipment, they either moved it out or the landlord took it. They'll never be back. But even now, the businesses that are allowed to operate, Chamber of Commerce talked to, I don't know how many of them, and 1 in 5, 20%, say that unless things change dramatically, they will be closed permanently within 2 months. The unemployment rate, private economists will tell you, whatever the government tells you is the unemployment rate, multiply it by 2.1 to 2.4, and you've got the real rate. nobody can convince me that we've only got a 13% unemployment rate. It's a lot closer to 30%. And if you just do an informal survey among your friends around the country, just call them up, you'll find that, about a third of them are out of work. And another really bad event is that Congress won't do squat. Nancy Pelosi will not allow anything that would actually help this thing come to the floor. One of the things that needs to happen with Congress is that the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader need to have a lot less power, and I'm talking about Republican and Democrat. Mitch McConnell has too much power. He personally, individually, can stop any bill he wants from going to the floor for a vote, even though 99 other senators want to at least vote on it. Same thing with Nancy Pelosi. Most of the bills that come out of the House now, the members never see them. She writes them, and then she tells them what they're going to be. And no bill brought up by a Republican will ever get a vote, even if a huge number of the Democrats believe in it. There's certain things, believe it or not, the Democrats and Republicans both want. But if a bill is brought up that Nancy Pelosi doesn't like, even if the majority of people in the House she knows would vote for it, it'll never come to a vote. So we're at a stalemate, folks. We've got to elect conservatives. And I don't care if they're conservative Democrats, they do exist, or Republicans, or libertarians, or independents, or if they're part of the birthday party that Kanye West has started. He's running for president as a candidate for the birthday party, he calls it. I don't know why. But,
Right.
There are a lot of Democrats that are more conservative fiscally than some of our Republicans. We've got to get people in there that respect the Constitution, or have at least read it, and that are committed to fiscal responsibility. If we allow the House to be controlled as it is now, then nothing will happen. The House will come up with bills, send them over to the Senate. They won't get voted on. The Senate will write bills. They'll send it over to the House. They won't get voted on. I mean, I hear stuff all the time. Well, did you hear that the House just passed a bill for so-and-so? That's going to be really great. No, the House passed it. That's the point. Congress didn't pass it. The House passed it. Both houses have to pass it. Basic civics. But unfortunately, civics are not being taught. Students graduate from high school, they have no idea that there's 3 branches of government. They have no idea that there's 2 houses of Congress. They just don't know anything. So in less than 100 days, you and I are going to have to change out the House and put people in there that are conservative. We're going to have to make sure the president gets reelected, and we're going to have to make sure that we retain the Senate. Again, there are some Democrats that are very conservative. I will vote for a Democrat if they uphold the Constitution. But if Biden gets in office, read my article on Conservative Truth, he will not be in office for more than 6 months. He's a puppet. He's a figurehead. They're going to put in, he says he's going to choose a woman vice president. Well, it may be a woman, it may not be, but it doesn't matter, because the DNC and the money people are going to choose who is going to be the vice president, because that person is going to be the president. They'll allow Biden to bask in his glory for a few months, but no more than 6 months. He'll be a puppet president, and then they're going to tell him, okay, you're resigning for health reasons. If he doesn't resign, they use the 25th Amendment. They know he can't run the country. And then we're going to have a very, very radical vice president who becomes president, and then guess what happens? We don't vote for a vice president. The people have no saying this whatsoever. The president will appoint a vice president, and they're going to do it very quickly because I think they're just as afraid of Nancy Pelosi in the White House as any sensible person would be, and she's third in line. So they'll appoint a vice president, and all it takes is a simple majority of Congress to approve that person as vice president. So you got a radical president handpicking another radical vice president. That's a recipe for just horrendous things happening in the United States. I'm going to have to end it here, but folks, vote the Constitution, vote for conservatives, and eventually I think we'll see the country on the gold standard. So in the meantime, put your family on the gold standard. I've got some great gold that I bought before the prices really went up so high. If you want to call me directly, because go ahead and take back the screen, Dwayne, if you don't mind, because I just want to check. I want to check where spot is gone.
Spot gold. Take a look.
Yep.
Okay, that's daily chart right there.
Okay, and it's gone up 20 points.
Here was the high.
Since I've been on the line.
Okay, now this is spot. We were talking the futures price earlier. Back on the 28th, we had a high in spot at 1981.20. Yesterday, we had a high at 1980.84. Today, the high has been 1971.54, and today's low has been 1939, and currently it's at 1954.
1954, you said?
That's currently the price of spot gold, yes.
Yeah, that's the bid. That's the other thing that's been strange, and again, encouraging to me. Gold almost always has a $1 spread.
I'm sorry, I forgot to show my screen. There you go. Now you can see it yourself. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, gold almost always has this $1 spread. If it's like 1954.60 on the bid, it'll be 1955.60. I mean, down to the penny, it just stays $1 apart. It's been running about $2.50. Right now, the difference between the bid and the ask is $2.50. But it's been running as high as...
the spread right now. I'll show you. Okay, you got buyers at 69. You got sellers at 69.20. So there's basically a one tick spread on the futures.
Yeah, I don't know how futures. I don't follow them, but I follow spot gold all the time.
Yeah.
And whenever the spread starts getting bigger like this, it means a big move. So anyway, my number is 561-753-5998, 561-753-5998. And what I'm doing, because we don't know how high gold is going to go, if people call me and they make a commitment for how much gold they want to buy, then I will lock them in at the current price, and then I'll just immediately call my wholesaler and lock in that amount of gold at the current price. So you don't have to worry about, by the time you get your money in, you get your gold, it's gone up $50 or whatever. I will lock you in. If you do call, make sure that you say that Christian Financial Radio Network sent you here. And then if you want to just go to CFRNgold.com, fill out the form, I will send you the Gold Education Starter Package. But right now, it'd be a lot quicker just to call. So, any questions?
Wayne Tenner just posted a comment. Susan Rosenberg, a Marxist/terrorist, is running the finances of BLM. She was serving a 58-year prison sentence, but was pardoned by Obama in his last days of office after serving only 15 of the 58 years. And she's controlling the purse strings over at BLM. A convicted Marxist terrorist sentenced to 58 years. Is now
She was part of the Weather Underground, wasn't she? Or the Black Panthers?
Possibly, yeah.
Can he give me the link to that, Dwayne, before I go?
There's no link. He just typed in that information.
Can
Can you give me a link to that, Wayne? Is there an article somewhere? I'm sure if you just Google her name, Susan Rosenberg, I'm sure it'll pop up on the first page of Google.
All right.
You know, all kinds of links to her pro and con.
Susan Rosenberg. Okay.
Yep. B-E-R-G. All right, my friend.
All
Thank you so
right.
much.
Well, it's been fun.
It has.
And next week we're going to talk about gold-backed currencies.
Okay.
Because it's going to happen.
Sounds good. I look forward to it.
We just need to be the first ones.
There you go. That's the ticket.
Okay.
All right.
God bless.
Take care. All right, guys. We talked about the S&P. It got through the BBC. It got through the weekly trading zone at 33.34. We then said, and put this on the screen, potential resistance here at the bearish cross. Okay. And I call that 32.45, but the swing high was actually 43 1/4. So missed it by a couple points. We said if price found resistance here, now it could have just ripped right through it, but this is what typically happens. This is the high probability thing. When price gets to the bearish cross, finds resistance, it's an area, sends price back down to the zone where we need to find good support, which we have over this 30-minute candle, and we're 6 minutes into this 30-minute candle. So the alert that we put in the channel was 30.40 to 30.42 to 30.45. So we got from 30.40 to 30.42. We didn't quite make it all the way to 30.45. We made it to 43 1/4. That's what I was talking about earlier. Okay. From 32.40 to 32.45, we had initial target at 42, then a target at 45, then a target at 68. Okay. We made it to 43 1/4. Price is now pulled back to the weekly zone. It's found good support. So now, would we trade that same thing again? Yes. In fact, 32.40 to 32.42 with potential resistance at 43 and 45. And then the final trade to target is 68. We've made a leg, a retracement, a shallow retracement from the low. If we look at the fibs on just this move, from the low to that recent swing high, we didn't quite do a 24% fib retracement. Okay, and that's the shallowest. What I'd like to see right here is I'd like to see price drop down into this area where we've got last week's zone and we're having a bullish cross right now. I would like that opportunity more than I like this opportunity. Because if price did that, if price pulled back down here, then we would have an opportunity of perhaps 32.30 to 32.33, and then boom, 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 boom. Okay? All right, so that's what happened with that, because that's what we were talking about when we stopped. So, real quick, let's run through these. I won't spend a lot of time on each one. We'll just go through them. These are the Concierge Trade Alerts from last night. You can grab a screenshot if you want. S&P, Dow, Russell, Crude, NQ, 10-year notes, gold, Canadian dollar, euro, British pound, silver. Okay. So we'll start with the S&P. The S&P is said to consider being long 32.59. We haven't seen that, but I'll stick it up here in case you might be able to use it later in the day. 32.59. All right. Now the flip side was to be short 32.31. There's 32.31. Okay. Now, remember, on every alert, the final trade to target on a short is the zone below, on a long it's the zone above. As long as price stays below the BBC, you know that price is trying to get to the zone below. Once price gets above the BBC, you know that price is trying to get to the zone above. Got perfect examples of that right here. So from 32.31 to the zone below at 32.12, 31 minus 12, that's 19 S&P points. At $50 a point, that's $950 per contract traded from the published entry to the published target. Let me say it again. On a short, the final target is always the zone below. On a long, it's always the zone above. Okay. Here's an example of price trade. This alert triggered here, and it traveled from, I think it was 32.40 up to 56. It went 16 points. Didn't make it all the way to the final target, but it still gave up 16 points. Now, if you didn't take profit up here, well, guess what? You could have got stopped out with a loss if you just did nothing, if you just watched it. But on this move, what happened? Price started to walk sideways. The step line crossed to the right side of blue and climbing. The first red candle that closes below the step line, that's the exit signal. That's the market saying, this move's running out of steam. You might want to take your profit. Right there. This alert, up to here, market says, get out. When the market says get out, that's so much better than me saying get out or get in. And that's what your training leads to. The time you spend in the live training room, the time you spend in one-on-one mentoring sessions, is so that you reach a point where you don't have to ask me for my idea or my opinion, or Michael or anyone else. You look at the chart, you understand how markets work, you have your own opinion. In other words, it's not even your opinion, it's what the chart tells you. And it's very important not to color what the chart tells you with your thoughts, your ideas, your opinions, right? Or what the talking heads on TV are saying, or some guy on the internet saying. No, you want to get to the point where every trade you place is based on what the chart is telling you. And that's our goal when you become a passport holder, is to get you to that point. And our method of getting you to that point is by providing you with all these tools, from the weekly zones, to the concierge alerts, to the logic alerts, to the indicators, 2 hours of live training every day, Monday through Friday, 2 hours on Thursday night, an hour on Tuesday afternoon, and unlimited one-on-one mentoring sessions. Okay? All right. So from 32.31 down to the trade to target, 19 points. Price bounced off the target. It didn't make it all the way back to the trigger. It hit the BBC, and that was good resistance. That sent it back down to the zone. We spiked the zone. This morning, we talked about this in the pre-market strategy session, that it was an extremely high probability that price would go to the daily BBC today. This was one big red candle. This is how far we bounced off the low. But as you can see, the daily BBC is at 31.95, right? And on that S&P trade this morning, now this is the concierge, but the logic alert that we issued this morning during the pre-market strategy session, that had a target at 31.95. And today's low was exactly 31.95. So, plenty of opportunity here, and here, and here, and here to grab your points for the day. Okay? So from here, what's the next high probability move? Well, we know where resistance is, way up here, talking major resistance. We know where major support is. When price hits a daily BBC, this is the kind of move you should anticipate. We bounced, what, 45 points? Yeah, 45-point bounce off the daily BBC. Bounce, that bounce, that bounce, and now this bounce. Okay? Now, this battle isn't over. A lot of things could happen here. We could close anywhere in this range. We may travel all the way back to the BBC. I think that's the highest probability, is that we do travel back. We give the BBC one more chance to serve as good support. Now, if it fails, okay, if we come back down and the BBC doesn't hold as good support, now this area across here that was good support for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions, see, that now lines up with the daily BBC. So this is a really strong area right here. But if price gets through it, then we've got this area here, where the bullish cross took place. And if that bullish cross fails, here. Now, if we do fibs on just the last leg up, on the daily chart, okay, from the low to the high, we've already spiked the 24% fib. The 38% fib right here, okay. Now this 50% fib, see how that catches this low, now the body low, yeah. Now the 62 is just above the bullish cross. So embrace all the possibilities. Number one, we could keep bouncing. This candle could turn green, and we go to the next area of major resistance up here, all-time historic high. That doesn't appear to be the highest probability thing, but it's a thing. Could happen. Okay? Now the high probability is that we at least go back down to test the BBC. If it holds, boom, now we start another leg to the upside. If it doesn't hold, then expect this area, this area, this area, or this area to hold. And everything we do on the 30-minute chart is us working and navigating in between those areas of support and resistance. because that's what the market does. That's what price does. Price travels between support and resistance. Since the inception of the markets, price has moved from support to resistance to support. From what people are willing to pay to what people aren't willing to pay, back to what people are willing to pay, back to what people aren't willing to pay. So, consolidating now for 1-2 hours at the zone. I would like to see us reach down, touch the BBC, start printing green, then we'll have more to the upside. Because of everything I just said on the daily chart, I also have to accept the price could come down. This doesn't hold. We get on the other side of last week's weekly zone. Then we have an opportunity to short this down back to this zone. So we'll either have a trade opportunity this afternoon up here or down here. I feel certain. But until the opportunity presents itself, you won't see an alert in the channel. If price makes a run to the upside, last night's CTA was up here at 32.59. Now we're about to come down through 32.31 again. Now let me explain the difference between this and this, okay? As we came down through 32.31, we had red and falling at our back. Here, if you short 32.31, you're shorting right into blue and climbing and the BBC. See, when price approaches the BBC, we expect it to be good support when we approach from above. When we approach blue and climbing from above, we expect good support. So we've got good support times 2, plus we've got a last week's weekly trading zone, which has served us well again this week. So really, you've got good support times 3 right there. Which means if it doesn't hold and bounce, if it breaks that area, a lot of folks will be surprised, which could lead to, if this area breaks, gives way, it could be a fast move back down to this zone. So we're not going to do anything right now. We're not going to short 32.31 into support. We're going to let price get to support. It either holds and bounces, or it tumbles through it, and then we'll trade this down here. If you have a question on any of that, let me know. I'm going to move through these other ones real quick. All right, last night on the Dow, sell 26,330. Sell 26,330. Now this was a very directional move, so we never came back and triggered it a second time. So 26,330 minus 25,920 is 410 points at $5 a point. It's $2,050 per contract traded. The initial trade to target was right here. The next trade to target would be here. And then the next one would have been way down here. But we got back into this channel that I drew earlier in the week. That's the real interesting thing about channels. You can have a channel. Price pops out of it and you think, well, that channel, that's no good anymore. And then lo and behold, you pop back in, boom, boom, boom. All right, okay. All right, let's go to the Russell. All right, last night on the Russell, CTA said, sell 1484. The trade to target, 1472. So from 72 to 84, that's 12 points, at $50 a point, $600 per contract traded. Now this first drop took us from 84 down to 76, 77. So it's a 7-point move. We bounced, got back above the trigger, down we came again. In both cases, we had red and falling, and that's what we need for a short trade. And then here, we almost got back above it, but BBC, acting as resistance, didn't let us get quite above the trigger. But that resistance took us all the way down to the zone at 72. Okay? All right, NQ. Last night's alert on the NQ said sell 106.25. Sell 106.25. All right. From 625, we made it down to let me get a straight number there. This swing high didn't quite make it. Would have been no good anyway. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. From 625, the next zone down was 592. So 25 and 8 is 33. So $660 per contract move in this one candle. We continued down to a zone from last week. And on this pullback, we didn't quite get below it. The long side for the NQ, 107.26, which we've not reached yet, but it's possible that we could. 107.26. Okay. All right. Crude oil. Last night's alert for crude, sell 40.90. Sell 40.90. We had zones all the way down. I think these are all current. 40.80, 40.25, 38.75. These are last week's zones. I'm going to take these out. So 40.20, actually it's 40.25. Right there. See how price pulled right up to the BBC and the zone? That's good resistance times 2. And then after 40.25, the lowest weekly trading zone this week for crude is 38.75/80. Now this zone was handed out Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern to all of our traders. We've published the zones since December 14th of 2009, and this is exactly how price has behaved since then, over a decade. Zone to zone, back to the zone. Will we go back to the zone again? Well, We're printing a green candle right now, so we're not even going to think about that. As long as price stays below the BVC, we'll be looking for short trades. Price gets back above the BVC, then we'll be looking for long trades. That's true on every market, every time frame. Now from 4090, 4090 minus 3875. It's $2,150 per contract traded. That's what the market made available. We didn't make it available. Market did. We are like the usher in the theater, in the moving picture shows of old. If you got to the movie theater, you were late, movie already started, there was a guy with a uniform and a flashlight and a hat. He checked your ticket stub to make sure you weren't sneaking in. Then he would escort you into the darkened theater, shining his flashlight at the floor to help you find a seat without tripping over someone else's feet. Okay? We're kind of like that guy. Still trying to find me one of those hats. And a little jacket with the shoulder pads. Probably got one of those left over from the 80s. We show you the path as we see it. You may still trip over someone's feet. Oops. But we do our best to show you a path to get from point A to point B without falling down. Okay? So for all of you that took this trade last night, that bell's for you. Now this morning, during the pre-market strategy session, we also issued a crude alert that was, I showed you earlier, 4015, because that 4090 triggered last night. So this morning, for anybody that wasn't already in the move, 4015 to 4005 to 3995 to 3945 to 3875. There we go. So this is Concierge, which came out last night right after the Globex open. This was Logic, which came out this morning at 9:26 a.m. Eastern. That's Pacific time you see on my chart. Okay. See how those two work hand in hand? Okay. All right. So, back to gold. Still got two more markets, gold and silver. Last night's alert on gold. Short 1950. Haven't been there. Go long 1968. Well, the alert came out at what time? 6:15. So that's going to be 1815. So it was during the life of this candle. There was a misprint on the gold. Should have been 1988. But it's a misprint. And let me just show you. I don't hide from my mistakes. I make a mistake. It's out there for the whole world to see. Right there. Typo. Okay? We don't sweep anything under the carpet. Because if you sweep enough stuff under the carpet, pretty soon you start tripping over it. Forget where you hit all the bodies. And it just wears you out. So it's better to stay away from that. So the short side, 1950, we haven't touched it yet. Silver spent these are 30-minute candles. So from 10 a.m. on the 28th to 1 a.m. on the 30th, with the exception of these two here, kind of odd moves. This happened at 2:30 yesterday afternoon. This happened at 3 yesterday afternoon. And then it went right back to sleep. So I'm assuming this would have been on the Fed announcement. And then, what was the Concierge Alert? Short 2317. 23. So 2317. We got to a low of 2310. So that's 7 cents. 2 cents is $100. So $350 per contract traded. And then on this one, we got down to $23. And the alert said 2317. So that's $850 per contract traded. And then it did it again. So there's like 3 triggers on silver. And on the 10-year note, which I don't talk about much because I don't trade the 10-year note, 139.2650. Okay, here it is, 139.2650. And I would need somebody who's in the 10-year note business to even calculate the profit on that. I think it was pretty good. 139. 139. 46.5, and that makes a real good point right there. I don't trade the 10-year note. I've never traded the 10-year note. I don't know the price it pays per ticker per point. I do know that, based on just how this thing looks, I know that's a pretty sizable move. And if anybody that trades the 10-year notes in the room, yes, Todd, we rolled forward to the Z contract this morning. Oh, you're telling me that's why my chart looked wrong. Oh, thank you very much. Okay. Well, at least I said I was willing to take responsibility for my typo. I felt bad, but what else are you going to do but just admit it? Thank you very much for pointing that out, Todd. Last night's alert was on the Q contract. Okay, I rolled forward this morning. So we'll look at this again based on the Q contract. Okay, thank you. All right, so the numbers were to be long 1968, which we never saw, or to be short 1950, which we did see. Well, there's a huge difference in the prices between when we roll to another contract. The price discrepancy usually isn't so great. It seems like in this case it was pretty stout. So we triggered once, we triggered twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. However, here you got red and falling on this trigger. You got red and falling on this trigger. But on this trigger, you got blue and climbing below you. So you have to accept that that's potentially good support. So if you are going to take it, you got to keep it on a short leash because that may be good support. And it was, and it sent price back up. Now, so always look at the chart before you place a trade. Alert comes in, your phone or your tablet or your computer goes dee-dee-dee. Don't just trade it because it's an alert. Go to the chart. make sure if it's a short, you've got red and falling at your back. If it's a long, make sure you got blue and climbing. Because as the day progresses, that dynamic's going to shift. Now, price could, spike back up here, roll over. It could come back down through here and once again have red and falling at its back. That would make it a good short. Just don't want to short into obvious support. So anyway, thanks one more time, Todd, for pointing that out. I don't feel quite so bad now. I didn't really feel that bad, but nobody likes to make a mistake, especially when the world is watching. Well, that's very kind of you to say. That's very kind of you. How about good word for the day? Unless you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Tonight is workshop night, so if you've been on the trial, and you've made up your mind that between the training, the mentoring, indicators, concierge alerts, logic alerts, and just all the love, you want to be a part of the family, call Valerie, 949-42-EMINI. She'll get you signed up, get you all your materials so that you can be in the workshop tonight. When you're on the trial, we treat you just like a partner. But only partners, only passport holders, only family members get into the Thursday night discussion group. So if you've done your trial, you've made up your mind, call her early enough today so that she can process your paperwork and get you the link out so that you can get into that workshop tonight. The workshop on Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes it runs an hour, sometimes 2 hours. Back in the day, it used to run 3-4 hours. We cut that out, but that was just too much. But we stick around until there's no more questions. We're both willing to, all three of us are willing to hang out until all questions are exhausted. So spend today thinking about questions, so that tonight, when we open the floor for discussion in the workshop, we can just hit those questions one after the other. And asking questions in the workshop environment is so beneficial because you get an answer to your question complete with charts. It's one thing to get a typewritten explanation, but to have someone answer your question and show you, how it's relevant on an actual chart. Plus, other people in the room who are learning probably have the same or similar question, so they're going to benefit from the answer as well. So I think that's what they call a win-win-win situation. So let's all be winners. I've decided to call you guys masters of excellence. I like that. I have a friend that used to use that term. He dropped off the face of the earth. So, I guess I'm going to use it now. Okay. Good word for the day. Ray just pointed out the ES is approaching 3240 again. Let's take a peek. Yep. So, price did not dip down. Support did hold. So the alert that we just discussed, the one that we already had one run at it, I didn't type it in a second time, 3240 to 3242, 3245 to 3256 to 3268. This resistance should be difficult to get through, at least the first time we touch it. We came close here, but the first time we touch it, probably get sent back. Just keep an eye on it. Thanks for pointing that out, Ray. Okay. Now, I know many of you take your vitamins every morning. Nutritional supplements, but we also could probably use spiritual supplements. I have my iPhone set up now if you have an iPhone, and it basically works the same if you're on an Android phone, I went to the podcast store. That's built into the iPhone. On the icon on your screen just says podcast. It's purple. Click on that, search Daily Audio Bible. Click the first option. And then you'll see what looks like a windmill, a white windmill on a red background, kind of. That's Brian. I've been listening to him for many years. Click on that. That will take you to the Daily Audio Bible podcast. And then if you click the subscribe button, it's free, by the way. Oh, and if you've never subscribed to our podcast, I've got to... we put the show every day on YouTube. And that's sort of an automated process. We don't have to really do anything extra. But for many years, I uploaded the daily show to Apple, to the iTunes store, to the podcast category. And honestly, I just haven't done that of late, but I need to start doing that again, because a lot of people can discover you via the podcast app. So if you've never gone there, just search CFRN iTunes. You can see some old broadcasts, but like us and subscribe us if you don't mind, because I plan to start putting shows back in there again. Hang on for me 1 second, guys. Okay. So again, if you just Google CFRN iTunes, you'll find us. Like us, subscribe. And so anyway, back to the story I was telling you, is if you go to the Daily Audio Bible channel, click subscribe, and again, it's free. It's not costing you anything. What will happen is every morning when you wake up, Brian's in Tennessee. He usually rises very early in the morning, like 5 a.m. or something, and he reads Old Testament, New Testament, Proverbs, and Psalms. If you listen every day, you'll go through the entire Bible cover to cover in 1 year. Each week he uses a different translation. I think this week we're using the New English translation. So you get some different perspectives. It lasts about 30-40 minutes. One of my favorite parts is at the very end, he plays the voicemails that have come in over the past day. People with praise reports, prayer requests, and after a few days, you really do start to feel like you're part of this global community. It's a good feel. It's the way I want you to feel about CFRN. Brian does just an excellent job of making you feel included in that community. So I wake up, the first thing I see on my phone, is, as long as Brian's on schedule, is it tells me that today's edition of the Daily Audio Bible is ready. As I'm stumbling in darkness looking for my pants, I can just hit play, and all of a sudden I got God's Word waking me up. And Brian, he has a great character. Might take you a day or two to get used to his reading style or the way he talks, but you're going to love him. He's a great guy. And we used to have a partner that I think he's on their board of directors. He might have even been Brian's brother-in-law, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I think you'll like it. I bet you if you just agree to listen to each daily episode for the next 5 days, I believe you'll want to make it a daily part of your routine. Because we all know we're supposed to read the Bible, stay in the Word, all that. I don't think this is cheating, but you can listen while you're getting dressed, you can listen while you're making your bed, you can listen while you're shaving, while you're fixing your breakfast, while you're driving to work, right? And I think it's just an excellent way to start the day. Once he's finished reading, he doesn't preach, he just shares a little bit of his own insight into the scriptures that he's just read. Every day, a little Old Testament, a little New Testament, Proverbs, Psalms, and in 1 year. And probably many of you have never read the Bible cover to cover. Or maybe you have in fits and starts, or maybe you've just always wanted to, but just didn't have the discipline. This makes it so simple. I've been through the entire Bible, I think, with Brian a couple times. There have been times over the years where I listened faithfully every day, and then I fell away, and then I fell back in, and, you know, life happens. But it's kind of like the market. Whether you show up or not, Brian does every day. Even when he travels, because he's a big part of the, you know, modern day Christian community, so he speaks in different places and does a lot of traveling. So if he's in a foreign city or something, he tells you and tells you what it's like, and it's just, I don't know. You'll enjoy it. I hope you'll try it. Daily spiritual supplements. 2 Corinthians 3:5. Not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think of anything as being from ourselves, but our sufficiency is from God. Christian counselor Dr. Ann Schorb writes, each morning I reach for an assortment of nutritional supplements. Each has something I need, but not one by itself is enough to provide everything. Here are the spiritual supplements that she says she takes. Now, she's a doctor. She's a Christian counselor, not an MD. Spiritual supplements. Number 1. Here's the first pill. His death on the cross is sufficient for my salvation. Hebrews 7:25. He is also able to save to the uttermost those who come to God through him. He lives to make intercession for them. So, the first, if that's the first thing you think about in the morning, Jesus is making intercession before the Father on your behalf, like a defense attorney. He's explaining your actions, right? He lives to make intercession for you. So that's kind of got to put you off on the good foot. Jesus has my back. Boy, I hope I don't screw this up, right? Jesus has my back. Number 2, his strength is sufficient for my weaknesses. How often do you wake up and the enemy's there, the accuser of the brethren, to start just listing off every way you failed yesterday? Well, you didn't do this, you messed that up, but you sure could have done this better, and what were you thinking when you did this? Well, we're human. We make mistakes. We fall down. Jesus called a sheep. When a sheep falls over, he cannot get back up on his own feet by himself. He can't. A shepherd has to come along and put him back on his feet, or he'll lay there and die. That's a true story. Wonder why he called us sheep. His strength is sufficient for my weakness. Isaiah 4:29. He gives strength to those who are tired and more power to those who are weak. So we've taken 2 spiritual supplements, 2 Holy Ghost vitamins. Let's go for number 3. His authority is sufficient for my struggles. Jesus said in Matthew 28:18, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. His authority is sufficient for my struggles. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. discipling a man is very different than convincing him to recite an incantation. Now that thought runs deep. If you ever want to talk about it, I'll be happy to. Fourth spiritual supplement. His power is sufficient to restore me. Psalm 145:14. The Lord upholds all who fall and raises up all who are bowed down. So, if the enemy is, accusing you, reading that list of things you got wrong yesterday, his authority is sufficient for my struggles. So in other words, you've got the power. Jesus said, you've got the power, right? All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. This is Jesus saying to you and I, go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Obviously, we're not going to be taking somebody down to the river every day to dunk them in the water. But we do have an opportunity every day to minister the love of God to those who are lost, hurting, and have nowhere to turn. Number 5. His wisdom and knowledge are sufficient to direct me. Job 23:10 says, he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. Number 6. Hopefully these are small pills, right? His grace is sufficient for all my needs. 2 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. I talked about this, I don't know, a month or two ago. That scripture had always been kind of difficult for me to wrap my brain around. And I heard Pastor Stephen Furtick preach it in such a way that it really resounded in my spirit. So, whatever your faults, whatever your shortcomings, whatever mistakes you made yesterday, the good news is God's grace is sufficient for all of your needs. His strength is made perfect in your weakness. Where I am weak, he is strong. Now, you've taken all these spiritual supplements. Sometimes you'll hear Psalm 51:12 quoted as, restore unto me the joy of my salvation, instead of restore unto me the joy of thy salvation. There's a big difference. My salvation means me working to be saved and never knowing if I've done enough. My salvation means me working to be saved and never knowing if I've done enough. Thy salvation depends totally on Christ's finished work on Calvary. It acknowledges that while we'll never be sufficient of ourselves, our sufficiency is from God, who never fails. Not once, not ever, not never. That's a good word for the day. And Ray just sent the good news that we did make it up to 3242 again. So 3240 to 3242 initial target. Made it that time. Made it again that time. Okay. 2 back-to-back opportunities to take 2 points out of the market. And as long as price stays above this zone, more importantly, as long as it stays above the BBC, then those additional targets, 85, 56, 68, those are still possible. But if you got your points, you're done for the day. Go do life. Go disciple somebody. That's what God's looking for. A few good men and women who are willing to put in the time, the effort, the energy to disciple other men and women. And men, it's really best if you disciple men. And women, it's really best if you disciple other women. Because otherwise it can get a little awkward. Now, I understand that pastors will have female parishioners that come to them for counseling. And I don't have to tell you, if you're a pastor, you know how you have to handle that in a way that no one's integrity is ever questioned. Unfortunately, we live in a world today where the enemy is not only the accuser of the brethren, but seems like anybody can be. All right. I'll see you guys tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern in the workshop. If you've been on the trial, you're on the fence, that's got to be uncomfortable. I hope it's not a barbed wire fence. But if you want to talk to me, just book a mentoring session this afternoon. Now, the software on the website that allows you to book your own session, that requires 24 hours advance notice. I have a busy afternoon, but if you're new, if you've been on the trial, and you do want to speak to somebody so that you can make up your mind, if you call Valerie, I'll make myself available to chat with you. We can screen share or just talk by phone. What I won't do is deliver a sales pitch. What I won't do is try to convince you to become a passport holder. I'll just answer your questions, whatever they are, and then I'll pass the ball back to you so that you can make your decision. We don't ever want to bring anybody in kicking and screaming. You have to know in your heart that what we offer, who we are, what we do, how we do it, is what you want to become a part of. Maybe you're looking for something different, and that's okay. That doesn't make you bad. Makes you human, okay? But if you've been on the trial for a week, you've had plenty of time to experience everything we do and how we do it, so that you're now in a position to make an intelligent, well-informed decision if you want to make the next step. We'd love to have you as a part of the family. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.